Someone has finally recognised that George Christenson, a member of the Liberal Party or the National Party, I can't remember which, who cares, is a political right-wing crazy man. So just letting you know that here in Australia, we have our crazies too. And he's one of a growing number, increasing number of right-wing political people who are not just pundits, they're people with some sort of political power, I guess, because they are elected members of parliament. And he has decided to side with or be interviewed by Alex Jones in the US, who, as everybody would be aware, is a right-wing conspiracy theorist who believes that the aliens have entered into our bodies and that they are, I don't know, reptiles, I guess. And that is and so, to be able to put yourself onto right-wing media in the way that he has, and particularly just not right-wing media, but the extreme right, the real crazy people like Alex Jones in this world, and be able to express your comments, your fears, your resentments, your bigotry, whatever it is that you're representing, and know that Jones is going to come at you with some wild and crazy theory that is just so completely out of this world, literally, and you have to sit there and kind of agree or nod, as obviously Christenson has done recently. It just amazes me that you would even put yourself. So what sort of crazy person put you onto a network which is going to espouse these stupid right-wing extremist QAnon type theories? Well, clearly Christenson is one of those guys who believes that crazy things happen in this world and that his view is right and all of your views are wrong. So I just wanted to bring up an article which just highlights this very fact. So, and this is where the Nationals have decided to actually take a stand against George Christenson after he calls for embassy protests in US conspiracy shows. So I'll just bring up the article itself. And so David Littleproud, who is currently the deputy Nationals person, because Barnaby Joyce has travelled to the UK for some bit of a break, and I think most of us here in Australia are pretty relieved by that. Thank God he's gone. He says he's spoken to David Littleproud says he's spoken to MP about his judgment after he appeared on the Alex Jones InfoWars. The acting Nationals leader David Littleproud has counselled MP George Christenson over his, I must have spelled his name incorrectly, I do apologise for that, over his decision to appear on far-right American conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' online show. Now, the reason why that is significant for me is that Alan Jones has been banned from all social media. The only place he can ever get any coverage these days is on his own webpage, which simply the internet can't ban him for that, I guess. But Twitter and Facebook and all the others have banned him because they're just as much over crazies as what I am. And they've done the right thing by getting rid of him because he's such a negative influence. But Labor has said the Morrison government has not done enough to condemn Christenson over the controversial appearance on InfoWars, in which he encouraged people to protest against Australian embassies against the loss of freedom during the coronavirus pandemic. In my view, he kind of sits here with Craig Kelly and Clive Palmer and Pauline Hanson on the crazy right, who believe that for whatever reason their freedoms are being manipulated, being dispensed with because of the coronavirus, and that as a result of all of that, they need to take to the streets and proclaim freedom, which they haven't really lost in the first place, but believe that this is a way that they can exert some sort of power and get some sort of recognition for the crazy stuff that they believe. The sad thing is that so many other people believe that. In the 35-minute video, which Christenson shared with his followers on Monday, the Nationals MP laughed at Jones compared Australia COVID-19 quarantine facilities with Auschwitz because they both had big fences. And that's the sort of thing that Jones does, like fancy consider. There's not even a comparison, it's just crazy stuff. And, Christenson nodded and said, well, this is a good idea. Yeah, I agree with that. They've got big fences around our quarantine centre. We've got one or two, and I don't even know whether they're big fences or not. And maybe they were there before because they were used for other purposes. Who knows? But nevertheless, it seems to be a big deal, and that they look like concentration camps for Jewish people, which is just a crazy way of putting it. The rest of the world, please stand with us. Please support us. And every time we see people out there protesting, whether it be in front of an embassy or elsewhere, protesting for our rights in Australia, it really does embolden the patriots, the people who are for freedom in our country, to stand up. And so here we have these ideas, I think, which I'm a little bit concerned about, is that we start using language that they use in the United States to discuss those people that are patriots. So anybody who is not on their side of the fence, on the right wing, then they're not patriots and they're not loyal to their country. And it's a load of bullshit. But nevertheless, this is what they believe, and this is how they separate, and they create a disruption within our society, because there's going to be a them and us type mentality at the end of the day. And I find this completely distressing, because the worst thing that we can do is have a divided country at a particular time when we're fighting the coronavirus in particular. It's not a good time to be divided. This is the time that we need for our own health and well-being to be focused on the job at hand. Christenson also announced in April he will retire. Thank God the man's seen the light and he's retiring. There's a growing problem for the coalition. The MP crossed the floor on government legislation in the final sitting fortnight of Parliament and called for civil disobedience in response to vaccine mandates. The Nationals leader Barnaby Joyce has previously said he won't demand Christenson desist from contradicting public health advice about the effectiveness of masks and lockdowns, because the coalition governs with a thin margin, and if you start prodding the bear, you're going to make the situation worse. So at the end of the day, most people keep quiet because this is about only politics. It's not about what is in the best interest of our community. It's not about what keeping our community safe looks like. It's about whether or not we have enough votes and whether we can hold power. So it says all that there needs to be said, I guess, about the coalition, and particularly the way they treat and behave around someone like Christenson and Craig Kelly and others who are extreme right of their politics. And I suggest that if those people are that right, I suggest you join Pauline Hanson and Craig Kelly, because they're the crazy ones also, and put them all together in that one basket so they can all sit together and chew over how terrible society is and how their freedoms are being taken from them and so on. And at the end of the day, they can all vote as one group of people if they're fortunate enough to get elected. I'm hoping that our community will be smart enough, aware enough, clever enough to be able to make sure that people like that don't get elected at the next election. Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.